Welcome back to the channel. My name is Connor. It is great to have you here. Today we are talking about polarizations. It's one of my favorite topics in IFS because it's so easy to understand and all of us have them. So what is a polarization? A polarization is really simple. We have a desire to do one thing and we have a desire to do kind of the opposite or polarizing thing. We have a need over here and we have a need over here, and they do not match. They are opposing each other in some way. There are very simple polarizations, and there are, of course, very complex polarizations. A simple polarization is a friend calls you on the telephone tonight and says, hey, let's go out. Let's go to the movies. Let's go have dinner. And you can feel right away, a part of you really wants to do that. And a part of you really doesn't and just wants to stay home and have the night for yourself. We can see those as two separate and distinct parts, or two separate and distinct internal family members. They both have a really good reason for desiring what they desire. And behind those desires is often a need. And although this is a very simple situation, it's not dire, it's not super complex, we can nonetheless feel a lot of anxiety when we are faced with the feeling of a polarization. So that often means that there may be even another part that arises that is anxious because it wants to know, what are we doing? Are we going with this part or are we going with this part? What's the plan? So in this very simple polarization, what we would want to do is to connect with self-energy, this calm, curious, and compassionate place. We would want to do our best to separate these parts that are involved in this polarization, to really hear from this one part that wants to go out and hang out with our friend and go to the movies and have dinner, understand what they're looking for, and to have it make sense in a genuine way, really validate what we understand about this part. Once that's completed, we want to come over here to this other part, and we want to hear why this part wants to stay home tonight. What is the need behind that? What is the desire there? And we want to spend some time validating that part's desire. Once we feel like we've heard from both sides of this polarization, we've held compassionate space, understanding space for both sides, we from self-energy can make a decision about what we are going to do. There are lots of ways to get into self-energy, to develop the skill of self-energy, to reconnect with self-energy when we get blended with other parts. I have a ton of videos out there for you to check out all about this. But by engaging in this work of kind of first acknowledging that there is a polarization here, one wants this thing, one wants that thing, that is going to bring self-energy forward. Then by separating them and spending time with this one and spending time with this one, authentically developing and feeling compassion and understanding for each of these parts, that is going to increase self-energy as well. So this whole practice from beginning to end in processing and working with a polarization, this is going to bring more self-energy forward. There are, of course, much more complicated or nuanced polarizations, which can lead to even more intensity, both within the polarization and from other parts of our system. One that comes to mind that I think many of us have been through before is the contemplation of ending a romantic relationship, breaking up with someone. Almost all of us who have been in that process before have also been in the polarization where one part really wants to end the relationship and they have a lot of good reasons for it, and another part really doesn't want to, or is really scared and has a lot of good reasons for staying in the relationship. This kind of polarization can last a day, it can last a couple weeks, it can last decades in some cases. And although this is a much more complex, it's a much more nuanced setup, there's a lot more at stake. We still approach it in the same way that we would with this very simple example of, do I go out tonight or do I stay home tonight? First, we would need to bring self-energy forward. We would need to connect with one side of the polarization at a time. And note that while we're talking about, well, there's a part over here and there's a part over here, sometimes, especially in a more nuanced and perhaps intense polarization, there can be multiple parts over here and multiple parts over here. So we need to access self-energy and choose which side do we want to connect with first. We need to ask this other side to please relax just a little bit. We're going to connect with this side, but we're going to come back to you. I'm going to hear from you also. We're going to spend a lot of time asking questions from a genuinely curious place. Tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me more. We're going to really listen to this side, try to understand the entire story of what this part or these parts are holding. This may include past experiences. This may include memories. This may even include exiles that are holding on to trauma or past unresolved pain. The best thing that we can do from this place of self-energy is give this side of the polarization a lot of validation, a lot of space, and a lot of time to really be heard. Because when we're in a polarization, we're not really actively allowing these two sides to be heard because they're talking to each other. Self-energy needs to step in, separate, listen to one and listen to the other. Now, a really important note that I kind of referenced in the more simple polarization is that other parts can arise because of the polarization. And many, many times in a polarization, especially in a more complex one, like do I break up, do I stay in the relationship? A part can arise that is what I call a figure it out part. This is kind of like the referee. And the referee is coming up and trying to figure out, do we do this or do we do that? Do we do this or do we do that? That's not self-energy. That's another part. Most of us have been in some kind of polarization like this, where we are just running around on this triangle between I'm not going to do it, I am going to do it, which one should I do? I am going to do it, I'm not going to do it, which one should I do? And around and around and around and around. It's a very ineffective way to make a decision. It can also be incredibly exhausting. It can also bring up a lot of other parts: fear, anxiety, shame, anger. What if we can slow that all down? Let our system know we don't have to make a decision literally right this second. What we're going to do first is tap in to a more powerful, relaxed, and grounded space that is self-energy. We're going to hear from all sides of the equation. And oftentimes, first, we will have to talk to that figure it out part and let them know you no longer have to do that job you were trying so hard to do for me and figure it out. I'm going to take over now. If you want, you can step back and you can relax. Thank you so much for all the effort that you've put into this. I got it now. From that place of self-energy, choosing one side to really dive into deep, really hear it, really listen to it, and then do that with the other. We can also check, after this side has shared, we can check with this side. Did you hear that? Did you hear that other side share? Does it make sense to you? So we can get these parts to begin to actually see each other's perspectives. They don't have to agree with it, but maybe they can actually hear the other for the first time, better understand the other for the first time, because self is present and helping guide these parts to be able to hear each other better. When we are navigating a polarization, it's important to understand we're not trying to listen to these parts in order to make a decision. We're listening to these parts so that they can be heard and so that they can relax. And by doing that, we are allowing ourselves to be more present in order to make a decision. I want to invite you in this moment to just take a breath with me and access a little bit of that self-energy. Closing your eyes, taking a breath. Anytime a polarization gets intense, or anytime negotiating a polarization gets intense, anytime you start feeling blended with various parts of your system, close your eyes, slow things down, take that breath. It's a practice to return to self. IFS is a practice. Negotiating a polarization, it's a practice. We're not looking to necessarily do it perfectly. We're looking to bring intentionality and just develop our skill over time. I really hope this video was helpful. If you like it, you can give it a thumbs up. Of course, you can leave a comment. If you want more, you can check out my website. That's in the description box down below. And I hope to see you at the next video.